Would you rather spend 5 hours on a post that could get you thousands of hits per month over 2 years? And in today's SEO space, you're going to have to update it every year, but we all know updating doesn't take as much time. So if you do that, 5 hours of time and it can feed you, right? Not just oh, someone might like it. It can actually feed you for years. Or would you rather spend, 30 minutes for a 24-hour cycle and pour 30 more minutes in and 24 hours?
One day in March, I started getting regular inbound requests for my coaching form, regular as in frequent. And I had no idea why. When I looked into it, it turns out that I was ranking at number 2 on Google for podcast coach. And not to sound like a broken record, but I had no idea why. I didn't feel like I was doing anything special. I didn't do any keyword research. I didn't even write the content in a certain way. In fact, the reason I made that page in the first place was to send people someplace from my mailing list. So I wanted to learn more. That's why I sat down with my friend and SEO pro, Lauren Gaggioli, to talk about what SEO really is in 2024. And we cover a whole range of topics in our conversation, from why quality human written content will always beat AI generated stuff, to how to do keyword research and why SEO is really a long game. But here are my top takeaways from the conversation. The first is that SEO is about appealing to Google's bots and making your website discoverable for relevant search queries. But Google prioritizes quality human written content over AI generated or keyword stuffed content. So yes, you do need to write for the Google bots, but the Google bots like content that is written for humans. The second takeaway is that SEO is a long-term investment, and it's essential to commit to that investment for at least 12 months. I think about that the way my daughter is planting seeds right now. She's really excited to see those flowers bloom, but I have to explain to her that, hey, it's not going to happen tomorrow or the next day. It's going to take a few weeks to see those flowers bloom. And while things like social media could be useful for engagement or that dopamine hit or that kind of immediate feedback, SEO is more effective for driving targeted traffic and revenue. Finally, my third takeaway from our conversation is researching low difficulty, high relevance keywords and focusing on answering questions that your target audience asks is crucial for SEO success. So you don't just want to go for these super high search volume terms, because those are going to be hard to rank for, especially when you're starting out. But if you look at low difficulty relevant terms, that's where you can start, right? It's, again, if we're talking about a garden, you want to try to plant something simple before going for some big complicated plant that's going to take a lot more care. So those are my top takeaways from our conversation. It was an absolute blast. In the members only portion of the show, we talk about a whole bunch of things. I talk about an SEO project I'm working on for this podcast. And we also talk about whether or not you should have your podcast on your main site or not, because that's also a question I get a lot. So if you want to hear that part of the conversation, as well as every episode extended and ad-free, you can become a member of Streamlined Solopreneur Accelerated, and you can learn more and get all of the show notes over at streamlined.fm/419. Welcome to the Streamlined Solopreneur, a show for busy solopreneurs to help you improve your systems and processes so you can build a business while spending your time the way you want. I know you're busy, so let's get started. All right, I am here with Lauren Gaggioli. Lauren, how are you today?
I am so good, Joe. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks for coming on. I'm super psyched. This was serendipitous because we met at PodFest and we were scheduled to like do a little catch-up call. And then on Podmatch, I was like, I need to find an SEO expert. And as if the Podmatch algorithm knew I thought that, it recommended you. And I'm like, this is perfect. So really psyched to talk to you today about this.
Same. It's one of my very favorite things, which is a weird thing to say. A lot of people are like, don't want to touch SEO with a 10-foot pole. And my experience just says, why? Why wouldn't you? It's amazing. So I'm really excited to share that.
Yeah, this is awesome, right? I think like this is maybe what makes someone really good at what they do. Cause like when I was a web developer, especially like in the early days, people would be like, so do you use like Dreamweaver to make your websites? And I'm like, I hand code. And they're like, how? And I'm like, you get the best code that way. Like I write all of my CSS by hand. And they're like, that's wild. I hate that. And I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
It was just like, makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And gives me really clean markup.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Awesome. So let's dive right into the deep end here because I know almost nothing about SEO despite being a web developer in my former life for
very
20 plus
common
years.
For web developers, by the way.
Yeah. Right. And I'm not going to pretend like I do, right? I'm like, I didn't offer like an SEO package with my web design. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know SEO. So what is SEO in 2024?
So I think, there's a temptation among those of us who really love SEO to just dive right in and give you all the nitty-gritty technical details, which will make a normal human run away screaming. And so I don't do that. Really, SEO is the way you appeal to Google's bots. Bottom line, right? SEO, search engine optimization, means that you are attuning your website to the needs of a spider that crawls your site and says, what the heck is the content that lives here? Now, a lot of people think that that means that they no longer can be creative. They no longer can write for humans. And I think it's actually exactly the opposite because a lot of what speaks to Google's bots and allows you to raise your hand and say, hey, Google, this is the problem I solve. When people ask this question, can you send them to my website? It is the boundary. It does draw some boundary lines for how you craft your content, but what you say is still your words. And it just allows you to find more people with greater ease. And so if you want your website to show up in Google search, this is a game you have to play, but it's not holding the thread of connecting to humans for the thread of speaking to bots. It's about weaving the two together and really balancing the two and always elevating quality content by holding the human thread just a little tighter. And so you can do both, and they're not mutually exclusive.
I love that. I had my friend Maddie Osman on last year, I think. She released a book called Writing for Humans and Robots. And so I love that you're like reinforcing this because I think you're right? Like, again, old day, like before, let's talk about before Google, right? There was a time when like Yahoo was the thing.
Ask Jeeves.
And it would just kind of like, right? And like search engines would just like count the number of times you said the word on the page and be like, that's the most relevant. And that almost feels like we're going to talk about AI, obviously, because it's 2024. But it almost feels like that's the game that you see on Twitter. It's like, I wrote 100 articles in 4 minutes using AI and I'm getting so much more traffic to my website. And I'm like, are you?
For how long?
Right.
Yeah.
Are people going to read that and be like, yes, I trust you?
Right. Exactly. And I have been having almost an existential crisis around AI because I also write novels. None of them are published, so don't go looking for them. But I have like 2 novels in the hopper. I love creativity. I have a background as a theater kid. Art and how we engage, like the quality of work we're developing, what the human mind can do and what is worthy of being outsourced. I've been wrestling with this and I've been writing it out because that's how I process. And when you really get down to it, Google algorithms are always going to be in alignment with elevating quality content. Can you leverage AI to help you create a structure, particularly if, let's say, you have a learning difference and you need help with that executive function of like hierarchical organization? Mm-hmm. Great. Like that's a great use of it, but you still need to use your voice. And Google just did a helpful content update about a month and a half ago now, and almost everybody's traffic dipped because the machines are learning the difference between human and AI, and everybody kind of is going on this downward slide before they learn again and are now elevating quality content again. And that's just part of the SEO play. But if the natural bend of Google's algorithm is always towards elevating quality content, then you really need to be thinking about the human user, because Google is going to be looking at these behavior metrics of the users once they hit your site. So it's really important to put humans first, and just having content to have content. Like, what are we doing? Especially for solopreneurs, I think. We are often like heart-centered and really passionate about how we help. And so it's very important to stay connected to that and not just be trying to leverage like the next black hat strategy, because Google very quickly catches on and knocks that down to the bottom again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I posted on various social networks, right? Like what's a word or a phrase that you read that you immediately know, like AI wrote this?
Ooh.
For me, it's delve, which I got yelled at by somebody because like I guess delve is very common in Western Africa, which is how OpenAI did like human reinforced training.
Oh.
And so like I got like yelled at a little bit for that. But like, I mean, I'm sorry that AI is co-opting the words that you use. But delve for me, like I've never used delve once in my I say it conversationally, but like delve is never the word I go to when it's like plethora. It's just like, it feels like a fancy word, but it's like just
it's an
say
SAT
a lot.
word, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I used to do that. I used to teach SAT. It was in there.
Yeah. And so my point, right, is like if we can tell, Google can tell even better, right? Like, so.
Or is at least working to catch up. And I think that's the thing. Some people are like, oh, I'm getting away with it. Like you mentioned earlier, like white text on a white background, just like keyword stuffing. Right. And it's like, that like, is it good content? Are you doing things in a proper format that is timeless? Like I always talk about timeless SEO principles. Like I am not algorithm hacking, and people who are, you're constantly going to have to phase shift and change the way you create your content. I am a busy homeschooling mom of 2. I have, consulting clients, and I teach courses, and I have a community. Like, mama don't have time to waste. So give me the thing that I can write the post today, and I can do updates in a year, but I do not want to recreate every single time I sit down to work on something. If I want Google to find it, I'm just going to use the timeless stuff like quality headers, internal linking structure, outbound links. There's so many different things that go into that. But I am going to leverage the heck out of the things I know work and have worked for the last 10 years. And that will be what I plant my flag on. And if that changes, I'll adjust down the line. But I want the stuff that's been around a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to get to this next point, which you started to say, but I want to highlight, right? Like that the white text on a white background, the link farms, right? Like I remember that, right? Yeah. Where it's like me and all my friends were like, I'll just backlink to your website on this page with just links on it, right? Yeah. And like that, Google catches on, right? Like, build a better mousetrap, build a smarter mouse. And like you said, like mama don't have time for that, right? Yeah. I feel like that could be like, I mean, I guess if I was a mom and not a dad,
you could still, you can identify. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the tagline, right? Like, this is what this show is all about.
Yeah.
Because if you look at again, Twitter or other social media, right? Where people were trying to game the algorithm by posting, like copying Dickie Bush or Justin Welsh, right? That stopped working because the algorithm was like, well, now we just have like a monoculture of content here and we don't want that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So love that. You mentioned like good headings and things like that. How much does website structure impact SEO in general?
A lot. And I think especially for your multi-passionate solopreneurs. So if someone goes to my site, laurengaggioli.com, what they might notice is that my header is not home, services, blog, about, contact. It is home, because you want to have that in your header. It is live with purpose, because I have a course about naming your purpose, learn and love SEO, which is an organic marketing pillar page, and support for digital entrepreneurs. And so the thing you have to remember when somebody is coming to your site through Google, we all envision everybody coming to our homepage. That is actually not how they come to your site. They crawl in through the window, right? They come to the more granular pieces of content if they are finding you through search. And what I wanted, even though I cover a wide breadth of content, is for them to be able to orient themselves immediately and connect their internal monologue of like, I'm here for purpose work. They could immediately see themselves in the header and go, oh, if I want information on purpose, that's where I go. Oh, she does these other things. That's cool. But I want this thing. And how that relates to hierarchy of your site is that for me, that live with purpose page, let's say, for example, is live-with-purpose. That's the URL, laurengaggioli.com/live with purpose. When you go to any post that I write under that header, it is using that as the stem, and then the post is nested after that. So Google knows on my site that anything after live with purpose is a purpose-related post. Anything after organic marketing or SEO principles is SEO-related. Anything after digital entrepreneurship is a post about digital entrepreneurship. They roll up hierarchically. And it all lives under the umbrella of Lauren Gaggioli. And so a lot of solopreneurs, what I find is that they want to create all these like myriad instances. And then they have these like 38 websites with tumbleweeds rolling through them because they think that they need to do that because that's sort of how we do it on social, right? We have Joe's running away. Yeah, but like Google wants fresh content, right? And yes, is there a value if you have the bandwidth to actually maintain and curate that many websites? Great. If you have a team that can crank out quality content in alignment with SEO structure, absolutely, you should do it. But, and here's the big but, as solopreneurs, we don't have time for that.
We don't have time.
Yeah. So laurengaggioli.com looks really healthy, even if I only post a single post for each of those content buckets every month. And as opposed to 3 different instances where there's only one piece of content going live each month. For those of you with podcasts, they should live on your main website because even if podcasts are notoriously hard to rank, which they are, and I can give you strategies for that, they still contribute to the overall health of the environment so long as your website is hierarchically sound and the foundational structure is in alignment with what Google wants to see.
This is amazing. I think we should talk about this in the Pro Show, Streamlined Solopreneur Accelerated, because I get that question a lot. And my answer is not as definitive as yours, but I'll probably defer to your expertise here. My answer is just based on vibes. So if you want to hear this conversation ad-free in the extended version, you can head over to streamlined.fm/419. All of the show notes will be there, as well as a join button to become a member. Again, you'll get this ad-free extended, as well as every episode ad-free and extended. So this is great. Definitely talk about that on the Pro Show, because like there's a bunch of things to consider, right? Like subdomains also contribute to like your domain rank and things like that, I'm told.
Yeah. as I understand it, and again, like I'm not a technical SEO, but as I understand it, subdomains actually are completely separate websites. They might contribute to the health of the core URL, but you actually are creating multiple websites. So it's not as helpful. I considered that path. I was doing research. I was like, do I need purpose.laurengaggioli.com? Actually, that's the same thing as coming up with a whole completely different website.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. So I think it's like, it's like the content in general, separate website, maybe like the domain rank. Like there's some number that it contributes
backlinks
to, right? Like,
your authority. Yeah.
Right. Love that. Oh, this is so fun. That we're getting into like the mildly technical area. But what you said really speaks to me because I was maintaining several different sites, right? Like this site is separate. Streamline.fm. Casabona.org is just kind of like a resume site for me right now. And in fact, what I ended up doing was I had a lot of like good, like well-ranking articles over there, like how I configured my Stream Deck is one, my Sony a6400 is another. But I want podcastworkflows.com. That is my main writing site. That's where I build my authority and expertise in the podcasting space. I want that to be the site. Like that's the decision that I made in December of 2023. And so what I ended up doing was move those articles over and did a 301 redirect from casabona.org to podcast workflows. And I'm like, I think this is everything I've read says this is right. And my friend shared with me that he searched Stream Deck Plus yesterday, and I was on the first page of Google for on podcast workflows for that. So
that's amazing.
Very
you probably
exciting.
pass that link juice on. And when you understand redirections and you can do it appropriately, there is absolutely value in consolidating and telling Google where you're headed. Did you resubmit in Google Search Console and name your canonical?
I named my canonical.
Perfect.
I used like the Yoast SEO to be like, this is the canonical link.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So getting into Google, that's a technical piece. We can talk about that later. That's one of my favorite hacks for folks.
Yeah. Really smart, right? Like, and this is the move that I do with Medium because I'm like trying to leverage Medium a little bit too for like discovery, but I always publish on my site first.
Yes.
And then import the story because when you do that, Medium marks the story, like marks your URL as the canonical one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the way to use Medium.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm really glad about that because I was like, am I messing my world up?
You're doing it
I'm
exactly
trying to do
right.
the same thing with Substack, but Substack is very much not like that. They're like, no, we don't want that.
Oh.
Like as far as I can tell, you can't mark a URL as canonical on Substack.
So you can name yours, mark it as canonical on your blog, submit it to Google Search Console.
Okay.
Wait 2 weeks. And then publish on Substack. And then Google will know that you are canonical, even if Substack will get the ding of duplicate content, not you.
Awesome. I kind of inherently I didn't do the Search Console thing, but I was like, I should wait. Like if I was publishing to all three places on the same day. And with Medium, it's like, fine, you're marking it says what the canonical link is.
It's doing it for you, yeah.
But then I was like, maybe I should like wait a little while, right?
Yeah.
So Google knows like this is where I want people to go.
And this is why submitting the URL in Google Search Console is so powerful because you're raising your hand and saying, come crawl my site. Because if you don't publish on a regular cadence, Google doesn't know to crawl your site. And they're definitely crawling Medium and Substack. They're larger sites. They're more like newsy, right? So they're getting crawled multiple times a day, searching for new content. So you want to be first in line. And so you can do that. And you can see how fast Google is sending bots to your site because you can go back and check. And as soon as Google says you've been crawled and indexed, then, or discovered at least, then you can go and submit on the other. And you'll find every site has like a different crawl budget and every site has a different timeline. So it's important to sort of just double check, get the sense of like how quickly Google's like interested in being on your site.
Right. Yeah, Google's like way more interested in like crawling NewYorkTimes.com every minute
for some kinds of content, but that like
Right.
That's timely and relevant. It has to be indexed quickly. If I write a post of why is SEO important for small business, does that have to be indexed really quickly? No, but I have trained Google that when I publish, like, it is helpful information. It's human written. All these things are true. And so it actually will index my stuff pretty quickly now. Like, the turnaround is like hours. Whereas a site that hasn't been in the flow, like, Google knows I'm a human. Like, I think he watches like how erratic my visits are, that he's like, oh, that's definitely not programmed.
Yeah.
So he responds pretty quickly. So, and I always say I call him Uncle Google to like humanize.
I like that. Google feels like a dude a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
it's founded by dudes. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, right. Awesome. I love that. Which brings me to, we're like wading into the next thing I want to talk about here. But first, let's take a quick break for our sponsors. Look, when you have an online-based business, speed and reliability are the most important aspects of a service. Not far behind that is actually owning the website that your business relies on. When you own your website, you're not subject to an algorithm, changing terms, or accidental shutdowns. That's why I'm so excited that Liquid Web is back as a sponsor of How I Built It this year. Their Cloud VPS is some of the best in-class hosting you can get when your business relies on your website. From speed to security and protection to regular backups, with Liquid Web, you can trust your website will remain in tip-top shape. Not technically savvy? Don't worry. Liquid Web offers fully managed hosting, which means they have a team of knowledgeable experts looking after your website for you, so you can focus on running your business. If you need fast, reliable, and secure hosting for your business, check out Liquid Web. Head over to howibuilt.it/liquidweb today. Hey, real quick before we get back into the episode, I want to tell you about my free newsletter, Podcast Workflows. If you are wondering how I can successfully run this show, plus 2 other shows, plus run a business, plus run 3 children, Podcast Workflows is for you. You will get weekly emails with behind-the-scenes look on how I produce this show, experiments I am trying with other podcasts, and general advice to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. You'll also have the opportunity to become a member and get ad-free extended episodes of this show as well as bonus content. You can do all of that over at podcastworkflows.com/join. That's podcastworkflows.com/join. Sign up for free today. All right, and we're back. So we're talking a lot about our site content, right? And like getting Google to crawl it and how important SEO is there. First of all, we are saying Google like sub Google for every search engine, or is Google like the only one that matters?
So Google has 8.5 billion searches a day. So 100,000 searches a second. And I think owns something like 97% of the search market, something crazy like that. So appeal to Google. And there's this trickle down, right? The native like built-in search engines and whatnot. But the reason Google has surpassed everyone else is because the algorithm is so sophisticated. Like Joe, you mentioned earlier, everybody else was just like keywords. Look, the keyword is there a lot. There's a reason Google came out ahead. And it's because of this more contextual algorithm, which of course we don't know as much about because they're very, very hush-hush, secret. But again, the arc of every Google algorithm update is bending towards elevating quality content. So there are things like your EEAT, which is like your authoritativeness and your trustworthiness and your expertise. And your site is sort of like, some of it's just like, well, we just know if you're a trustworthy site. Like some of it has to do with having solid code and like a site that loads relatively quickly and, it's mobile responsive and all that. And then some of it is how many backlinks do you get? How many people in your community trust you? And Google really takes all of that into account. And it's this vetting that actually keeps people away from trying to court Google. But it's the vetting that is the reason we trust him. Google is a matchmaker. And he only, he only trusts like Yenta, right?
Yeah.
From Fiddler. Like, you make a good match.
Yeah. Yes.
And so he only trusts certain websites. And 96.5% of web pages on the internet get zero traffic from organic search. And so a lot of that just has to do with some technical positioning, with knowing what to focus on, right? If you feel like you have to do all the things, no, imperfect action will get you there. But you do have to do some things, and you have to know what the big rocks are. And that's the thing that I think is overwhelming, because most SEOs come through a technical lens and they're like, you have to do all of it. And there's this feeling of like, it's like an all or nothing proposition.
Yeah.
It's not. You just need to understand what the most important things are, and then selectively choose what feels totally doable for you. After you post a post, is it worth your time to copy the URL, go over to Google Search Console, copy it in, and click a button? Like, to me, you just spent how much time creating that post? It is dang worth your time to spend 3 seconds to do that. It's a super easy fix. And there's a lot of things like that. Some of them require more time and attention, some less. Some are going to be more in people's wheelhouses and some less. But as long as you can see it all and go, okay, now I get to pick what's on my charcuterie plate of SEO and what I'm going to eat, then great. You're going to start to see, progress, forward progress, upward progress. But it does require a little intentional action, and it does require you saying, I'm committing to this for 12 months. And then on the end of 12 months, we'll talk about, we'll do a little pulse check and see where we are.
I like that. That's really important. In a world where we get instant gratification for just about everything,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying. I have small kids. I'm really trying to teach them.
Yeah.
Right. Like my daughter, we planted seeds. Like we ripped out these rose bushes, because they were like a hazard, and they eat, like, rose bushes eat everything.
Yeah.
Like, and so
They're
we ripped
beautiful
them out.
and
They
and
are.
mean.
Yes, and like I've got like very small children who run full speed in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ripped them out and we're planting seeds. And my oldest said, like, hey, do you think we'll have like flowers tomorrow? And I'm like, no, this is going to take some time, but it's going to be totally worth it.
It's the marshmallow test.
Yeah. Oh, the marshmallow test. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I'll add some we'll add some context here for the listeners who may have never heard of this, right? This is the marshmallow test. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? It's you put a marshmallow on the table. You tell a kid or an adult, I've heard you can do it for both. I'm going to go away for a little bit. Don't eat the marshmallow. If you don't eat the marshmallow, I'll give you 2 marshmallows when I get back, right?
Yes.
That's the test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like how much self-control do you have, basically?
Yeah. So I think it was Martin Seligman who did it, who's like the father of positive psychology. And I think they correlated it with later success in life. And I think solopreneurs, we're absolutely in the like long-term boat, right? We're building legacy businesses.
Yeah.
But I think too, like this actually dovetails with the conversation around social, right? So I think a lot of people, they're like, well, I can't add SEO to the mix because I'm already doing all this over here. And I want to invite you to flip that script. So with social, sure, you could go in and post 5 days a week. I have seen so many posts lately of I've got to feed the algorithm. So here I am posting a reel. Oops, sorry.
Mm-hmm. It's cool.
Am I allowed to say
we'll beep it. I like adding the beeps. Like it's, okay. I think that's a very like comedic impact for me.
So, I can come in here, I can post this reel, and it's not really anything you want, but the algorithm's going to serve it up. And by the way, it's also going to drop out the bottom of the algorithm in 24 hours, right? Mm-hmm. Who cares? Who cares that you did that? So
can I interrupt you for a second?
Please.
I had someone come on my show like a year and a half ago that said the shelf life of a tweet is 21 minutes. And that stayed with me. I'm like, what's the point of posting anything on Twitter if the shelf life, if you don't get retweeted or whatever, right? Like, sure, if someone else like reshares it. Which is like why we see all this engagement bait, which I'm going to let you finish your point and then I'll go on my rant. But like that, I'm like, what's the point of doing anything if it's only going to last 21 minutes and no one's going to see it?
So I'm going to back way up. All right.
Yeah.
So in my first company, I had an ACT and SAT prep company. It was asynchronous. I ultimately grasped the brass ring of the 4-hour work week just in the nick of time because I had a kid. So yay. And the reason that I was able to do that was because my website was driving 16,000 new users per month through the doors via organic search with zero ad spend. And they were my target market because they were searching for the things I had provided. Questions like, when should I take the ACT? When should I take the SAT? When are the test dates? All these questions that I had answered and cultivated and curated over time. Okay. So I had for 2 years, because Google watched what I did and went, oh, she takes care of these people, right? This is what her content's oriented towards. People stay on the site. I host my courses on my website. So those behavior metrics, you can see people coming back constantly to log in and take advantage of those courses. So I was able to send emails and make money. Now, that was 3 years in, right? That sort of tipped because I had no idea what I was doing. I was just throwing spaghetti at the walls. But in back solving, I was able to like create a more condensed path there. So here's the thing. Would you rather spend 5 hours on a post that could get you thousands of hits per month over 2 years? And in today's SEO space, you're going to have to like update it every year, but we all know updating doesn't take, as much time. So if you do that, right, 5 hours of time and it can feed you, right? Like not just like, oh, someone might like it. Like it can actually feed you for years. Or would you rather spend, 30 minutes for a 24-hour cycle and pour 30 more minutes in and 24 hours? Like you can start to do the math and say, well, after 10 of those 30-minute segments, I've got 10 days, of somebody maybe engaging.
Right.
Like the trade-off suddenly becomes really clear. And I think as entrepreneurs, we underestimate the value of 15, 30 minutes, right? If we can sit and focus and create something that can help people for years to come, to me, that's what I'm in business to do. And I love social for social's sake, but I don't do it, quote, right for business because I don't care. Like I have so many friends who like they're hundreds of thousands of followers. They're just getting shut out of those pages and there's nothing they can do. Like I'm going to play on turf I own and I control. And a self-hosted site, that is where you do it, right? Like I have my systems there locked down. I am not paying for storefront on Main Street. I am paying for storefront in Google SERPs. And that is my investment to have a business. And every solid business has investments. And so my storefront is a digital one and I take it very seriously. And I want it to be as clean and beautiful as if you were walking down Main Street and saw, plate glass window with beautiful offerings. I just happen to play in the online space, which is far more effective and economical, and I can reach more people. I'm not geographically bound at all, but social is like not that. And so we have to be really careful about when we're allocating time and the investment that we are putting towards stuff. We need to think about it. So if you create content for your site, a really long, robust blog post that you spend 5 hours on, guess what? You can chunk that up and start feeding it into social if social is part of your strategy, for sure. I'm not saying don't do social. I'm just saying do it with open eyes. And also this like slot machine impulse of like, but I might go viral. What would happen if you go viral right now as a solopreneur? Like
literally nothing.
Let's say everybody's banging down your door. Now they absolutely need you. Cool. You're one person. How do you facilitate that? Like, I want the right fit person at the right fit time when they know they need me. And I'm right there saying, welcome, I'm here with open arms. How can I help you? I want to deal individual to individual, human to human. I don't want the masses. And there's a tipping point where you have enough traffic coming to you that the people who are self-selecting out don't impact your bottom line, right? Like, you do need a certain volume because you're not going to be the right fit for every person, but it's not that like viral impulse. You know what? There's a switch that flips, and I actually had it happen for the first time this week, where you suddenly realize you just made a sale on the internet from a stranger.
Oh, it's like the best
that's a
feeling.
moment in your business. That is a huge moment. I made $25 because I have like a $25 free or $25 group coaching session, like your first one. You get to come in for just $25 and you get at least 15 minutes. It's like a mastermind group coaching call.
Nice.
And it worked because I thought about the human who searched the transactional query. They have their credit card in hand. They're looking at all these pages where people are like, come join my thing for, a small investment of $4,200 a year. Like, and you have to be here every single week. And I was like, well, what if I gave you like a really easy yes and we can meet each other and see if this is a right fit? And like, I updated the page on Sunday. It had been climbing for a year. I revamped it, updated it, and made it more timely and relevant the next day within 24 hours. Now it's a year and 24 hours. Right. So SEO is that long play, but I was watching the traffic and I went, okay, this is the tipping point, and pushed it out. And that is the power of it, because that person doesn't know my name. That person wasn't like Lauren Gaggioli, who I saw somewhere else. Right. That person was like, I need a mastermind. And they found me. And now they have handed me money to help them. And I get to meet someone new. Like, that's the coolest part, right? And so I think we have to step back from all the strategies, you got to do this, you got to do that. No, you got to choose what's going to serve your ideal client and start there and start small. And for a while, you're going to have to hoof it and really like maintain connections and network and all these things. Go to conferences, yes. And these can be working in parallel. And then at some point, that ease comes in. And then you go, oh, yes, this is the magic.
Yeah, I'm on this page right now. And like, you just blew my mind. I'm going to ask you like what tool you're using, because this is a great idea.
Thank you.
Like, because I get like, inbound coaching requests, and I'm usually like, oh yeah, like we can do like a power hour for $500. But like, I've noticed that people who are reaching out to me, especially podcasters who are just getting started, not ready for $500.
No.
And so, but I'm also like, I don't feel like I can give them the amount of time they need unless I charge that. And like a schedule. Oh yeah. What are you going to say? I'm ready for this.
No, I was going to say, so I play in the same space. I love solopreneurs. Like, I have such a heart for people like grinding it out, side hustling their way at 2 a.m. to their big, beautiful dream from like the corner of their guest bedroom. Like that's how I got started. I absolutely love these people, and they have no money to get started usually, right? Especially if they're in that really tricky place where they've left the job, but now they're like not yet tipped totally towards the scalable offerings. Yeah. So what I do is I give them payment plans. And so like, I'm literally building a website that's going to be able to put a course on. That's the next phase for a client. She's going to take me up on a 24-month payment plan, because I'm not going to not charge my worth.
Right.
But also I know that I need to make it accessible.
Yeah.
And so like getting creative, trusting other people. And I will say I'm very lucky. I am not the breadwinner in my family. Mm-hmm. Like, I get to play.
Yeah.
And that's so cool. And also I have childcare that's free because my in-laws are angels. Like,
oh, that's amazing.
There's a lot that works for me in this that allows me to do that. So everybody has a different like family status that makes that more or less feasible for them. But especially if you're just getting started, focus on that human to human. Get one person through the door. That's the magic. But we can talk for you about creative opportunities.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot there.
Awesome. And I mean, and to that note, right? Like, yes, I'm very lucky. My wife is a nurse, and she like I think I technically pay us more, but like also like she has the health insurance.
Health insurance. Oh my God. Like, I don't know that I would be an entrepreneur if my husband didn't carry it.
I certainly wouldn't. I'm like family
with
of 5.
3 kids?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And like on the East Coast, like I feel it's just like very expensive.
Yeah.
My health insurance, like this is how crazy it is. Like we have because she's a nurse, really good health insurance. And if I do a 30-minute session with my therapist, they cover like 80% of it. And if I do a 40-minute session with my therapist, they cover 6% of it. I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's just like confusing nonsense.
Yeah.
So, like,
oh
it's
my gosh,
just wild.
don't even get me started on insurance. I'm like,
Yeah.
can somebody please redo this? It's terrible.
Yeah. And like my therapist is awesome and was like, no, this is like, but like, if my wife didn't carry the insurance, like I wouldn't be able to make this work, I don't think. So like
I agree.
We're all in different stages and have different things, right? My father-in-law is awesome. He picks up my son from preschool 2 days a week, 2 out of the 3 days a week.
That's awesome.
But also, like, if you don't have any money coming in the door, then like experimenting, like with what Lauren was just talking about, is a way to maybe get some money in the door, right? Focusing on that human to human and not just looking at everybody who comes through as like, how do you impact my bottom line, right?
Right.
That's like using AI to write content, right? You're not thinking about the human.
We want to, humans are problem solvers. And this is why Google actually works so well. Yeah. So entrepreneurs are problem solvers. We provide a solution to a problem. And so when we do that, and people go to Google with problems A, they know they have, and B, they are ready to solve, such that they just type something into Google to help them solve a problem.
Right.
Like in terms of where you are in the buyer's journey, that's perfect, right? Like whereas social, you're like chucking it out and you're like, I hope the right person finds this right now, right in this.
It's like yelling on the street corner.
Yeah.
Right?
We are not buskers. Like,
we are not
don't
buskers.
Do that.
Yeah. It's like that's like worse than going door to door, right? Like at least someone who like comes to my door trying to sell solar panels, like probably knows I own the house. I always tell them I rent so that they stop bothering me.
Go away.
But like, someone also yelled at me at like a farmer's market. They're like, hey, you want solar panels? I'm like, you know nothing about me.
Yeah. And also you're at a farmer's market. Like, yes, we're eco-friendly, but goodness.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I love this. I love this whole conversation. I know that we're coming up on time. Here are the 2 pieces or the 2 kind of actionable things I would love to learn from you for our audience. One is like, how do I figure, I'll give them both to you and then we can kind of answer it kind of long form if we need. Yeah. How do I figure out what keywords to focus on? And how much content should I create? Like, do I need to publish every day? Is it?
No.
Yeah.
Heavens, no. Okay. First of all, SEO is self-care for you. I think so often we hear it and we think, oh my God, I'm going to have to do so much and it's going to go on forever and ever and ever. And I'm just going to have to keep creating. No, if you do it well and you do it strategically, it will feed you for a very, very, very long time. With you doing nothing else, it gives you permission to stand away and aside from your business such that you are still driving traffic and making money, because hopefully after a year or 2, you now have some scalable offerings, some passive offerings, but don't start there. You will be able to have more freedom. This is actually going to take things off your to-do list. And there are very few promises in the solopreneur space where it's like, do less. You'll get to do less. Everything is like, I start to do this and now I'm committed and I have to do this for forever and until I die. So that's one of the reasons I love SEO. It's so calming and grounding.
Love that.
So the right cadence is what works for you. The ideal cadence is at least every 2 weeks, you're publishing a robust blog post. And done, in true SEO, like best practices. If you search on-page SEO best practices, you will find a slew of things that you maybe never even thought about if you've never looked at this. But what content to create, that comes from doing robust keyword research. And I will be honest, I always have been an Ahrefs girl. So Ahrefs had a free keyword generator that I loved. It was so good. It gave really granular detail. Something about how they sliced and diced their data made it hopeful, right? Like there was a lot of green in the mix, which if anybody's done keyword research, they know it's like a field of red and like there's no opportunity.
Yeah.
So I loved it. And then they completely gutted it like 2 weeks ago. And I've built this into my SEO course, by the way. It's like,
That's rough.
And their lowest thing is $100 a month.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, come on, friends.
That's tough. I should mention at this point, full disclosure, that Ahrefs has formerly sponsored this podcast. So just full disclosure for anybody listening, this is not an endorsement. Yeah.
Well, you have a person I can talk to because I've emailed and they're like, we just don't have anything for you. Like,
I'll send them your way. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, Mangool, I've done some keyword research comparisons. Like I've done a couple of free trials, compared a couple of singular keywords to see how the data lined up. Mangool's is good, but they cap you at a certain number of keywords, which I don't love when you're in that flow. I want to be able to just go.
Right.
So Mangool's, they have a 10-day free trial, and then it's like $17 a month for their lowest tier. So if you wanted to get in there, you can turn it off and on. Once you have the keywords, you'll be able to see what to focus on.
That's what I did with Ahrefs when I did the Streamlined Solopreneur thing, and I was looking for the right keywords to try to rank on there. I paid for it for a month, and then I disabled it, I think.
Yeah. So if you've got the $100, go with Ahrefs. Yeah. I love their data set.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then Mangool's is good. There is, what was the other one? Oh, SEMrush I hate their interface. It is scary for me. I don't love the way they lay. It's just too much. But if you can get through that, if you're not, averse to technical kind of layouts, then that's a good one. They have a free trial as well. So, but get in there, get some data. And remember, keyword difficulty is more important than volume. And so you want to start to get on the page, right? You want to start to rank. And so think of the Dave Ramsey debt snowball. Start with the littlest one and pay it off and go. Yeah. Same idea. And it all orients around keyword difficulty. Think about the questions your ideal client asks. Don't sell them on that. Give them the free offer on that one. And then also think about your paid offerings and optimize your sales pages. And there you can make a pitch to sell, because those are transactional queries that people show up with a credit card for. But there's so much more that I want to say, and I can't because we don't have time. So if you want to learn more, I do have a course, Organic Marketing Ecosystem. I teach you the whole shoot and match. So
awesome.
If that's something you're interested in, by all means, get in touch.
That will be in the show notes with everything we talked about, including all those great tools over at streamlined.fm/419. We are approaching time. I think we're going to have to record the pro show later.
Sounds good.
So, Lauren, thanks so much for spending time with us today. It was so good that I didn't even cut it off in time to record the whole episode. So we're going to have you come back for part 2. Thank you so much. If people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
So everything is at laurengaggioli.com. However, if you're curious about that course, organicmarketingecosystem.com is where you can go and take advantage of the SEO course. And it just points to a page on my website. So remember, I have one website. Everything lives at laurengaggioli.com. There's also at laurengaggioli.com/mastermind. If you want to see the page Joe was referencing, that's where the $25 group coaching call and everything is. So if you want to see sort of how the sausage is made, that's a good one to go to for a sales page. And be sure to check out the posts. You'll learn a lot just by kind of looking at how I do it, even if you're not interested in the content per se.
Love it. Again, streamline.fm/419. We'll get that pro show for you. I know I promised it. We'll get it to you eventually. Yes. So if you want to sign up, you can head over there as well. Lauren, thanks so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it.
This was so fun. Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for listening. Thanks to our sponsors. And until next time, I'll see you out there.